So the name of this video is going to be whether I can talk about 15 volumes of manga and 3 books within 15 to 25 minutes. I don't know how it's going to go, but we're going to just try to see if we can make that goal. We'll see what happens. Hi everyone, my name is Rose, also known as TA Summers. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a summary of 2 book challenges that I participated in the month of November of 2022. So I participated in the 30 and 30 manga challenge, which was created by Shae Out and was hosted by a number of different booktubers, including Izzy from Happy for Now, Bree from Lock Booktition, and also Ashley from Bookish Realm, and also the channel Realm of Comics. So it was a challenge of which participants would read 30 manga volumes within the span of 30 days. The other book challenge that I also participated in was the Skoden Readathon, which was held by Kim at Native Lady Book Warrior. So I will have links to their channels and the announcements down below for your perusal. As far as both of those book challenges go, I did not complete them, unfortunately, but I did get quite a bit of progress in each of them. For the 30 and 30 manga challenge, I read a total of 15 volumes of manga, and I also, with respect to Skoden, I was able to read 3 books for the prompts that Kim gave on her little bingo board, which I'll put up a picture of it here for your reference in terms of the prompts. So I'm going to describe like all of the books that I read for these respective challenges in this video, and we're just going to go right into it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. So in terms of the actual books that I read within the 30 and 30 manga challenge, you may recall that I've posted a video of where I was visiting my hometown in the cards above, as well as the link down below. I was able to pick up 2 volumes of manga there, Ranma 1/2 Volume 2 and Ranma 1/2 Volume 3. I also, with respect to other manga that I was able to pick up in the month of November, finished 6 volumes of this particular series, which is called Given, which is by Natsuki Kizu. As you can see, this is all 6 volumes that I was able to complete. I also read the complete edition series for Silent Voice by Yoshitoki Oima. This is the first collector's volume for your perusal. And I also have Silent Voice Collector's Edition Volume 2. And as you can see, these are really high quality, really just beautiful editions of a Silent Voice. And I'm happy and excited to have had them and also read them. I feel like I have to just readjust this camera slightly because it's a little bit off base, but forgive me if things are just a little bit off focus, but hopefully this should be a little bit of a better angle. So to start off this review, I'm going to talk about the 2 volumes of Ranma 1/2 by Rumiko Takahashi. It is a classic series centering on the main male protagonist, Ranma Saotome, who has been cursed while visiting in China, a sacred spring that when he's doused in, no, I take that back. When he's doused in hot water, he turns into a girl, but when he's doused in cold water, he turns back to a boy. This very chaotic series follows Ranma as he navigates being betrothed to his potential fiance, Akane Tendo. Yeah, I had to think of Akane's last name for a second, but essentially this series is a romantic comedy which follows the misadventures of Ranma and Akane as they navigate their relationship, as well as various colorful characters that they encounter on the way. I've read Ranma 1/2 many, many years ago when I first started watching anime as well as reading manga, so this is kind of a revisit for the series for me overall, and I was actually happy to be able to pick up the 2 volumes that I was able to peruse at my childhood library when I was doing my reading vlog in the previous video. To talk about Ranma Volume 2, it centers on introducing quite a few number of characters. We have Ryoga, who is cursed under the same type of spell as Ranma, except for when he's doused in warm water, he turns into a pig. Ranma and Ryoga are very fierce rivals, and they vie for Akane's affections, even though Akane is betrothed to Ranma. We are also introduced to the character of Kodansha, who is known as the Black Rose and is set to have a duel with Akane to vie for Ranma, boy Ranma's affections. I'll call him boy Ranma because there's difference between the characters in terms of not everybody in this volume knows that Ranma has this particular curse. Volume follows Ranma as he takes the place of Akane during a particularly grueling fight that she's supposed to fight against Kodansha, who challenges her for Ranma's affections, and they're fighting a duel. But on the day before the duel is supposed to start, unfortunately, Akane gets injured while trying to train with both Ranma and Ryoga. So with her out of the picture, Ranma decides to take her place and essentially participates in the duel as girl Ranma to kind of fight for like it fight in place of Akane, and chaos ensues with respect to that. We're also introduced in this volume to two characters. Mikado and Azusa are brother-sister duo who are figure skating champs. And essentially, they challenge both Ranma and Akane for respective affections. I think Mikado is in love with Akane, and Azusa is in love with boy Ranma, and essentially they have to duel against the two to see who is the most attached, vie for the affections of each other, and it's chaotic to say the least. The final part of this second volume covers the encounter with Mikado and Azusa and carries over into the third volume, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So for the third volume, it essentially wraps up the competition between Mikado and Azusa, as well as Ranma and Akane. And after that happens, then you think things would calm down, but essentially the rest of the volume is dedicated to the introduction of Shampoo. And if you know anything about Shampoo, she is quite the character in terms of coming from China all the way to kill girl Ranma, who she sees as a rival, but she does not realize that girl Ranma and boy Ranma are the same person. So when she meets boy Ranma for the first time, she falls head over heels. So it's basically this back and forth between Shampoo wanting to kill girl Ranma and falling head over heels and wanting to marry boy Ranma. So without spoiling the content for you, that's essentially what happens in that particular volume. That is Ranma 1/2 of volumes 2 and 3. It's quite chaotic, and I really enjoyed it in terms of the humor. As there are certain jokes in it that don't age as well as they could, but I thought that it was entertaining and funny, and also it was a nice reintroduction to a lot of the characters that I have followed both in the manga as well as the anime, which I also really enjoyed, but it's been a while since I revisited it. I gave both volumes 3 out of 5 stars, and I enjoyed them. I enjoyed the artwork, I enjoyed the pacing of each of the stories, and being able to be reintroduced to these characters. So I read the Given series, volumes 1 through 6 by Natsuki Kitsu, which is a boys' love series that revolves around following the adventures and relationships of a group of boys who are in the same band together. The hot-headed guitarist of Given, Ueno Yama, he sees another boy who is around the same age. He is named Mafuyu, who is carrying a very special guitar, but doesn't really know much about it and doesn't really play it and things like that. And Mafuyu
knowing that Uenoyama can play guitar, ask him to teach him how to play guitar. And there's a whole story behind why Mafuyu has the guitar, which you find out gradually throughout the series in terms of what that guitar's meaning has to him and essentially why he wants to play it. But um, you see Uenoyama introduce Mafuyu to his bandmates who are actually college students, the drummer Akihiko, as well as the bassist Haruki. And you follow Akihiko, Haruki, Mafuyu, and Uenoyama as they navigate relationships with each other, as well as being a part of this respective band. And I thought that this was one of the best series that I've been introduced to in a long time. Like, I love the music aspects of it. I love the relationship aspects of it. I love the artwork and the character designs for each of it. The pacing for each respective volume is very well done. I don't want to go into too many spoilers in terms of the 6 volumes of manga. You have these 4 characters navigating relationships in terms of their affections for each other because it is a boys' love manga. You have Uenoyama and Mafuyu essentially trying to navigate a growing relationship between them. And then you have the complicated relationship between Akihiko and Haruki. Haruki has a crush on Akihiko, but Akihiko has another relationship with a former roommate, which is not necessarily the best relationship. And then you follow essentially how each of these boys navigate their relationships with each other and deal with complicated emotions, especially with respect to grief, with respect to things and individual turmoils that they've had even in the behind the scenes aside from the band. Before Mafuyu becomes a part of the respective band, which becomes Given, Uenoyama is essentially playing in just a instrumental band. But when Mafuyu starts to sing, which Uenoyama does not know that Mafuyu can sing, but then when he hears his voice, like, oh, can you be part of our band? And so he that's the reason why Uenoyama brings Mafuyu to the group and says, hey, like, can we have him as part of our band? And they essentially rebrand and become the band Given. So that's essentially the premise of Given and kind of what happens in the flux of volumes 1 through 6 without going into too many spoilers. I do expect to pick up the 7th volume, which is supposed to release in early January of 2023. So I'm definitely looking forward to that release, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading more of this series. I feel like I've been living under a rock because I had never heard of the series, and it's been a little bit since I've read manga consistently in terms of stuff and watched some of the anime that's based on certain manga series. But I'm happy to kind of get back into it and have discovered this series for the first time. It's one of my favorites. I think it's probably going to be an all-time favorite for me, and I'm excited to be able to continue on with it. I'm not sure if I made a note on each of the ratings that I gave each of the individual volumes of Given, but I will say that based on certain story beats for each of it, I gave them overall an average of about 4 out of 5 stars for each respective volume, which with the exception of one volume which I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars because I believe was I think it was volume 4. Yeah, I think volume 4 of Given was the only one that I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. Everything else was 4 out of 5 stars. I'm really enjoying the my time with Given, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading more of the series in the future. So the last 2 volumes of manga that I want to cover that I read in the month of November for my 30 and 30 challenge is actually the 2 volumes that I showcased to you, but it's actually the collected series, which is a showcase of 7 volumes for A Silent Voice by Yoshitoki Oima. I did briefly review the first collection for my wrap up for which I'll link in the cards as well as down below for your reference. But to continue on with my review of A Silent Voice, the second collection picks up where the first left off, and we're following Shoko and Shoya as they're navigating their rekindled relationship in high school with a group of new friends, well, friends and companions, because some of them are navigating rough patches in terms of their reconnection. And when this volume picks up, this group of the group that of friends that they both have in common are essentially trying to make a movie that is supposed to be getting off the ground, but there's a number of pushbacks that are happening in terms of making this movie, because the main person who wants to make this movie isn't sure that he wants Shoko to be a part of it, even though Shoya wants her to be a part of it. And there's kind of like a rough back and forth in terms of navigating. Shoya has a number of insecurities of his own that, and he wonders if he's doing enough to improve his relationship with the people who are a part of this friend group, because some of them know what he did in the past to Shoko, some of them don't. Some of them know that he used to be bullied. He essentially became the bullied after being a bully to Shoko, after Shoko essentially transferred schools because of what Shoya did to her. And there are a lot of emotional moments in this second volume of A Silent Voice, which collects volumes 4 through 7. I was pleasantly surprised at how the tension, the conflict, and the overarching resolution was done with respect to A Silent Voice. It tackles a lot of difficult subjects. Please heed the trigger warnings in this, because it's a very emotional and very deep dive into navigating all of these difficult situations, and the essentially the relationship between Shoko and Shoya, as well as their extended friend group, in the pathway to navigating to graduation, and essentially establishing what they how they deal with all of these difficult situations. I understand the well reception to this particular series. I loved it. It's one of my all-time favorites now. I'm glad that the 30 and 30 manga challenge was when I decided to say, hey, I'm going to read this from beginning to end and see how it goes. I do know about the one shots, and that was collected in this particular these two particular volumes. The one um in the first collector's volume, I think that was the original short one shot manga that eventually led to the creation of the overarching series. And then in the second volume, there was an expanded one shot manga that did a little bit more of a deeper dive into the story that actually won awards. So I was glad to be able to see the different versions of the story of A Silent Voice in this collector's edition, as well as the interviews, the extra artwork, each of the individual covers for each of the individual manga volumes from 1 through 7, as well as extra sketches and things like that. Like, it gave a really nice, comprehensive sense to the series, between different translations and cultural notes, interviews, and things like that. So I'm glad that I was able to pick up both of those volumes, and I really, really enjoyed them as a manga collector. And that is The Silent Voice by Yoshitoki Oima. And I actually gave both of these volumes, I believe, 4.5 out of 5 stars. And I really enjoyed them. So now I'm going to go into each of the books that I read for my Skoden Readathon, which was hosted by Kim of Native Lady Book Warrior. And I chose 3 particular books to satisfy the prompts that were within that readathon in terms of the bingo board that you'll see up here. So the first one I want to go into is the second book in the Trickster trilogy that was written by Eden Robinson, who is a Canadian Indigenous author. And I knew that I wanted to pick up this series because I read the first book in the Trickster series, which is um, Son of a Trickster. And I read this back. I believe I read this the first book in last year for the first time, and so I it made sense for me to pick up Trickster Drift, which is the second book in the series, and I'll put the cover of that up. So, without going into too many spoilers with respect to this book, this follows uh, the journey of a teenager named Jared who picks up where the last book left off and is essentially leaving his mom and home to attend college. But it's not without a lot of heavy weights because he's essentially having to deal with trying to find a job, navigate classes, having enough money for books and supplies and rent and doing other things. But unfortunately, he has other things that he has to deal with respect to his identity and the events of the previous book, in which he realizes that he is the son of a trickster, and being the son of a trickster has a lot of things that he is navigating in terms of what he is becoming. So essentially, this book has him navigating, dealing with a stalker who had been after his mom and him when he was younger, and is chronicled in the previous books events. He also has to navigate being with his extended family, who essentially he's coming away from the protectiveness of his mom, even though he was essentially having to take care of his mom in the last novel for a lot of different reasons. So it's basically him trying to do what he can to parent his own parent, when really like he just like he wants his life to be as normal as possible, but it's anything but, between the level of responsibility that he has to deal with as well as the changes that are occurring within him. And I thought that this was a strong follow up to Son of the a Trickster, Son of the Trickster. Um, I thought that this particular book left on a particular cliffhanger that makes me want to dive into um, the next book in the series, which I'm definitely going to try to see if I can pick up. It's not like the third book in the trilogy is not available in audiobook, so I'll have to probably try to see if I can hunt that down in terms of getting a physical copy. But I thought the audiobook narration for both Son of the Trickster and Trickster Drift was very, very well done. And I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars in terms of how it brings Jarrett's voice and respective journey in this particular book to a rather intense climax. It probably even just as intense as the climax to the last book, given what happens to him. But I'm really excited to see where Jarrett goes, given everything that happens towards the end of this particular book, and navigating what his role as being the son of a trickster means and how he comes to terms with that. So that's Trickster Drift by Eden Robinson. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to read the next book in the trilogy, which I believe is called Return of the Trickster. The next book that I read for the Skoden Readathon is actually for the prompt for an author that is new to me. And essentially, I picked up a book that was not only a Book of the Month pick, but also a nominee for the Goodreads Choice Awards that made it into the opening round, but unfortunately didn't make it into the final rounds for it. This is White Horse by Erica T. Worth. And essentially, this is a mystery and thriller that centers around the particular journey of a young woman named Carrie James, who is a very big fan of Stephen King novels, heavy metal, ripped jeans, you name it. She's quite the character in terms of being a person to follow, and I believe she's in like her mid 30s. And essentially, this story starts where her cousin Debbie finds an old family bracelet that once belonged to Carrie's mother. And if you're following the story, Carrie has a lot of animosity towards her mother because she believes that her mother abandoned her or when she was a child and essentially left her father, who was in a debilitating accident, like overcome with grief and being unable to communicate because of that particular accident. And so their family has struggled essentially with a lot of different emotions and things like that. But when Debbie finds this particular bracelet and gives it to Carrie, Carrie starts seeing the spirit of her mother following her around, and it scares her. And and her mother's spirit won't stop haunting her. So essentially, she's trying to find out the mystery of this particular bracelet and what happened to her mother, so that her mother's spirit can stop haunting her. And there's a lot of different things that happen during the course of this book that has Carrie reconnecting with some of the family members that she's been estranged from, as well as reevaluating her relationship with her cousin Debbie, because Debbie's going through her own turmoils with respect to trying to help Carrie navigate this particular mystery about her mother, but also navigating her life with her husband and her kids, and essentially Carrie being a part of that in terms of keeping Debbie away from uh, familial things that are happening with that, without going into too many spoilers. And there are definitely trigger warnings with this particular book in terms of navigating a potentially abusive relationship and other things that are happening, like in terms of the overarching mystery of the book. But Carrie is a very sympathetic protagonist in terms of trying to figure out what happened to her mom, navigating her identity as indigenous and being of the city, versus those who are like living on the res, and like navigating like different family members, as well as different people who are in her respective community. But I thought that this was a very strong novel that compelled me from for a lot of reasons, in terms of following Carrie and essentially trying to find out what happened to her mom, and the journey that she takes getting there. I gave this particular book, I believe, 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the writing style. I really enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed getting to know the journey, and essentially I also really like the strong narration from the audiobook narrator, who is Tontanzin Carmelo. And I really would like to read more of Erica T. Ward's books in the future. I'm glad that I was able to pick up her work as part of the Skoden Readathon, and to navigate an author that was new to me. So the last book that I read as part of the Skoden Readathon actually fulfills the middle grade children's prompt that is on the Skoden Readathon bingo board. And this was also by a group of authors that were new to me. So it's We Are Water Protectors. It was written by Carol Lindstrom, and it was illustrated by Michaela Goad. So essentially, We Are Water Protectors covers the many indigenous-led movements across North America, trying to safeguard the Earth's water from harm and corruption. And it's a very short read. It was brilliantly illustrated. I loved being able to pick this up, and the this particular picture book. And it was a very quick read. I was able to pick it up and within probably about 30 minutes, and go through it. But I thought it was very impactful, very well illustrated, and beautifully done. I gave this essentially 4 out of 5 stars. Glad that I was able to read it. And so that is everything that I was able to read for the Skoden Readathon. I really wanted to read more. Unfortunately, did not have the opportunity to because um, between everything that I read within the month of November, I wasn't able to get to finish either my 30 and 30 manga challenge or the Skoden Readathon, but I did end up picking up a lot of books that I liked between both challenges, and I think that was the goal. I really would like to be able to do something like this again for not just the challenges, but being able to read more in terms of not only manga that is both new to me and revisit old favorites, but also read more native and indigenous authors. Particularly since I'm black and native myself, a lot of people don't know that, but that's my identity as well. So that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to be able to keep track of more of my videos as well as more of my reviews. Thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next video.